Welcome in to the Get Your Happy On Hour, featuring former Husker receiver Ricky Simmons.
Welcome to the Get Your Happy On Hour. I'm your host, Ricky Simmons. This is 93.7 The Ticket. I always start my show off showing love to people that show love to me. You know, I got to give a big shout out to Matt Warner, man, Empire Fencing out in Waverly. I appreciate the love you guys show me. I got a special shout out I got to get out here right off the top. My son's basketball team up in Kirkwood Community College in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, they won the national championship last night. So I'm wearing a Kirkwood Community College Eagles hoodie tonight in honor of Kirkwood men's basketball team. Huge congrats to you guys, man. I just want y'all to know, man, that we're very proud of y'all, and just keep doing what you're doing, man, and just know that there are bigger challenges ahead. I'm very proud of y'all. I gotta also bring up the fact that I have a guest tonight, but I gotta tell you a little something first before I introduce him. This young man reached out to me a couple of years ago for an interview. And I'm I'm very careful who I do interviews with, because a lot of times I don't even really like to talk sports. And for personal reasons, I'll share this with y'all, because a lot of people don't know why I'm the way I am when it comes to sports. I love Nebraska football. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just not a sports guy. You know, I don't like to talk about my playing days that much, because I know what happened. I was there. And a lot of times when you share stories about your playing career, people take it as if you're reliving your career. Well, let me put an end to that myth. I suffer from a disease called high self-esteem. I don't really need to talk about my football career to feel good about me. And that's my reasoning. But I watch all the Husker games. I want them to win every one of them, and I support them however I can. But I'm just not a big crowd guy. It's 90-some thousand people, man, going to those games, and a large portion of those people are partaking in alcohol, and I don't drink. So I don't really fit in with the large crowd. So that's my reasoning right there. So now you don't have to guess anymore, because I've had a lot of people ask me, man, why don't you ever go to the games? And, you know, every now and then I may go to a game, but usually I average about one game a season. So, but I got a guy tonight I want y'all to know. Now, he's a diehard Husker fan, and he's going to educate us on a lot of things. So I want you guys to pay attention. Dennis, welcome to the show, man.
Well, thanks for having me, Ricky, and thank you for agreeing to that interview 2 years ago. It was a great interview, one of the better interviews I did. I'm working on a book on the 1983 Nebraska football team. I interviewed Coach Osborne and 17 players that played in 1983, and every interview was great. I was very impressed with every former player that I talked to. It went really well. It was a lot of fun.
Well, you know, like I say, the one thing I will say is I'm honored to be a part of this project that you're working on, because I know this is going to come as a shock, but Nebraska actually did play football before the 90s. I know that's hard to believe, but they really did.
They absolutely did. I'll just say this. My book covers Nebraska football history from the foundation in 1890 up until Coach Osborne's retirement on January 2 in 98. And let me tell you, folks, between 1890 and 1940, Nebraska had one of the premier football programs in the entire country. Nebraska won 73% of their games in the first 50 years. They beat the Four Horsemen of Notre Dame 2 out of 3 times that they played them. They played in the Rose Bowl on January 1 of 1941. Nebraska was a force. They had a lot of great players and a lot of great coaches in their first 50 years.
Well, you know, I didn't know a lot about Nebraska prior to me coming here in 1979, but I will say this, man. I learned real quick that this is serious business, and I really I found out at a very, very early point of being in Nebraska that this is important to the state.
It is. It unifies the people of Nebraska. Everybody can
Mm.
rally around the team every Saturday during the fall. It gives us something we can talk about and agree upon. And so it's been a very positive force in the history of the state for many years. It's been a point of pride. I mean, Nebraska is a sparsely populated state with a small population. And for most of our history, we've punched far above our weight. And the major reason why we've done that, we've been lucky to have a lot of good coaches.
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, I got to bag up a little bit. I really want people to know who Dennis is. I mean, this young man has had a very interesting career, and I want to go back to the very beginning, and let's get back up. We'll catch back up to where we are now. So, Dennis, tell us, where are you from, man?
I grew up in Lincoln. I've lived in Lincoln most of my life. I had really great parents. My dad was an eye surgeon, and my mother stayed at home with us 5 kids, so she was very busy.
Oh, yeah.
But my parents were great people. They gave back to the community. My dad did volunteer medical work in Haiti and the Dominican Republic back in the 70s and the 80s. My mother accompanied him on these trips to some pretty harsh and impoverished areas. In 1970, the whole family went to the Dominican Republic for 2 weeks while my dad did volunteer medical work there. And I was in this impoverished environment I'd never seen before. It was a very eye-opening experience. And my parents also were advocates for special needs people, special needs kids. They would talk to state senators, U.S. members of Congress, governors about the needs of the intellectually disabled and special needs people. So they gave back to the community, and that inspired me. And I have great siblings too. They were part of the team that I was on growing up, and they're still members of the team, so to speak. I have the greatest siblings ever, in addition to the greatest parents ever. And my parents were both great lovers of history, and they instilled in me a love of history. And I eventually ended up going to Creighton University from 78 to 82 for undergraduate. Basically, my dad chose Creighton for me. It was the best decision I never made.
Hey, got my line there, huh? Where'd you get that line from?
I got it from you when I interviewed you in 2023. Your dad, you said, was a World War II veteran, had a very commanding presence, and he chose Nebraska over Oklahoma for you.
Yeah, it was the best decision I never made. I mean, I had to make a business decision that day.
Yeah, you had Barry Switzer and Tom Osborne in your living room one night.
Yeah.
Your dad steered you in the right direction.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like I had a choice in the matter. I mean, he made it real clear that we were going to Nebraska. I think I've told that story before, and I'll share it again for those of you who may have missed it. I was dead set on being an Oklahoma Sooner. And with Barry Switzer in your living room, man, and Coach Osborne knocks on the door, and I opened the door, and I didn't know who he was. It was kind of weird because he's like, "Are you Ricky?" I'm like, "Well, yes. How can I help you?" He's like, "Hi, my name is Tom Osborne. I'm head coach at Nebraska. I'm here to offer you a full scholarship to go to school and play football." I thought he said he was from Alaska. So I was like, "Sir, I want to thank you for coming all the way down here from Alaska, but it snows up there. I don't think I can go to that school. You have a safe trip," and I shut the door and started talking Oklahoma, man. And my mom ran to the door like, "Baby, who's at the door?" I said, "Some tall redhead man from Alaska." I told him, "Go ahead, because there's snow up there." And when she opened the door, Coach Osborne was still there. And, man, I think Barry acted like he saw a ghost when Coach Osborne walked in, because he's like, "Oh, man, Nebraska?" Well, long story short, my parents were more impressed with Coach Osborne. That's what it came down to. Coach Osborne, I had to give him credit. He sold my parents. He didn't really recruit me. And, man, when my dad made his mind up, it was over with. I mean, it was not a debate. He was like, "We made our mind up." I'm like, "Who made their mind up?" My mind, no, I want to go to Oklahoma. He's like, when he started walking toward me with his fist balled up, I knew right then and there. I was like, "Dad, where are we going?" "We're going to Nebraska. Go Big Red." That's how it happened, y'all. I mean, it wasn't my choice, but now looking back with hindsight, best decision I never made.
Absolutely. And one thing I heard interviewing the players from '83 was Coach Osborne was the one that sold the parents on their young son going to Nebraska. Coach Osborne is very persuasive in the living room.
Oh, absolutely.
Very persuasive with the parents.
Yes.
But back to my story. Then I went to law school at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., and I got my degree there in '85. The reason why I went there, I'm interested in government and politics. I wanted to go to Washington, D.C. to study law. So I did. It was a good decision. I made that decision.
Okay. Okay.
And my father backed it up. And one thing I did the last 2 years I was in law school in Washington, I was a law clerk for a law firm that had a regulatory and lobbying practice. They dealt with the agencies and the Congress, but it was not a sexy thing that they did. They did railroad deregulation. We dealt with the 1980 Staggers Rail Act. Not exactly sexy, but it was really interesting and intellectually fascinating. And I got a lot out of it. I'm glad I did it. And I'm still friends with the guys that I work for in Washington some 40 years ago. I still stay in touch with those guys.
So when you, so you actually went to law school in Washington?
In Washington, D.C.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, after you got out of law school, what was next for Dennis?
Well, here's the thing is, when I was a senior in law school, or not too long before after I graduated, my father called me and said a friend of his had an opening in his law firm doing personal injury and workers' compensation. And my wife and I wanted to return to Nebraska to start a family. Her family's from the Omaha area. And so I had this offer. And so that's why I returned to Nebraska. It was kind of funny how it developed. So I started calling this lawyer in December of '85. He didn't return any of my calls. He just kind of blew me off. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? So I walked into his office on January 2 of 1986 at 8 a.m. and asked for an appointment. He sat down with me right away. And 10 minutes later, I had a job and I'm working on a bunch of files in an office.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. He was an old friend of my dad. So I suppose he felt some comfort level. And so I represented people injured in car accidents and injured on the job from 1986 to 2023, fought for medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. It was a very rewarding area of practice. I felt like I was helping people. I mean, they're fighting insurance companies and they're pretty notorious for being stingy.
Right.
So I felt pretty good about what I did for a living, but I eventually kind of burned out on it and I decided to make a change in career. So I retired from the law at the end of 2023, and now I've dedicated myself to being an author and historian of Nebraska history, and that's where I am today.
That's quite a change. I mean, you went from being a lawyer to wanting to be an author. Now, what have you already published? Because you brought me a gift today. You want to tell us about that?
I'd love to, yeah. And just last December of last year, I had a book published on Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the 1968 Nebraska Democratic primary. The book is called Robert F. Kennedy, The Road Not Taken from Nebraska to the White House. And in 1968, only 15 out of 50 states held a primary. And so as a consequence, Nebraska had a very important primary election in May of '68. And so Senator Robert F. Kennedy came here and spent 10 days in Nebraska. Senator Eugene McCarthy of Minnesota spent 8 days in Nebraska, and they went to the small towns. They didn't go to Lincoln or Omaha. They went to McCook and North Platte and Auburn and Tecumseh and Fremont and Kimball. I mean, they went all over the state and spent a lot of time here. And what I did to research the book was I read a bunch of old newspaper articles from the Nebraska newspapers from 1968, and that was kind of the backbone of the research. You can find the book at denniscrawford.org. You can also
there it is.
You can also find it at Francie and Finch in Lincoln. You can find it at the Sower in Lincoln. That's another bookstore. It's at the Nebraska History Museum in Lincoln. In Omaha, it's available at the Douglas County Historical Society and also at the Bookworm. So we're working on getting it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. There's a lot of hoops to jump through, and we're trying to jump through the hoops right now.
Well, you know what? I'm just honored because you brought me some articles. Man, you have to be a historian to find these articles. I mean, I forgot all about these articles, man.
Yeah, I brought articles where you were interviewed in 1982 by the World Herald and then interviewed in '83 by the World Herald. And I found an article where Coach Osborne praised you for some block you made against Oklahoma in the third quarter of the 1983 game. You took out two guys and sprung Rozier for a 65-yard run down to the 3-yard line.
Man, I will be honest with you. I don't remember a lot of these articles. I really don't, but I am very appreciative that you brought me copies, man, because I will read these. Because in 1982, man, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about, what I was doing. I was just trying to do what I could do to help. But, when you got people like Rozier, Fryer, and Gill, there's not a lot you need to do. You got Dean Steinkuhler and Mark Shaleen. I mean, the list goes on, man. You got Tom Raffman, all these guys on the team. So it's a lot of people contributing. And I'll always show love to Jeff Smith, too, because Jeff Smith and Paul Miles, I mean, those guys were always uplifting to me. So when I see articles about me, it's kind of weird, because we had so many talented guys.
Yeah.
We had a really talented team. And, a lot of times people don't realize that we actually played for national championship, and a lot of, because we went for 2 and didn't get it, our team kind of gets a little overlooked. But I mean, we represented the state well, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was a glorious season, 1983, and the 80s was a glorious era in Nebraska football history. I think it's been unfairly overlooked because, there's books on the 70 and 71 teams, for example. There's books on the teams in the 90s, but there's nothing on the 80s. And I wrote my book to fill in that gap. In the 1980s, the Huskers were in the hunt for the national title maybe 5 or 6 seasons out of 10 seasons. They just couldn't quite close the deal. And in the 1980s, the Huskers had the best record in college football.
Well, one thing I will say is, I think you quoted a stat that I wasn't even aware of, but I think my last 3 years here, we were like, what'd you say?
Well, here's the stat. Between 82 and 84, Nebraska went 34-4 during those 3 years, and then the best record in the country during those 3 years. So that'd have been your junior and senior year.
Yeah. I mean, I know we won games, and I think that's a big reason why I didn't complain, because if we hadn't have been winning, I might would have been a little more of a problem, because I felt like I could always contribute more. But since we were winning, man, it's kind of like that old theory, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we all kind of knew, back then, it was a different style of football. I guess they call it smash mouth. We didn't throw it 30, 40 times a game. I mean, and me and Irvin Fryer was talking about this the other day. It's like, man, if you got 2 passes a game, you've had a huge game. And you better catch both of them, because Coach Huey, I think they kicked him out of school because he wouldn't go to recess. Well, you drop a pass and he'll have you on the sideline with a baseball cap on. He's like, nah, you're done.
I watched a lot of the games between 81 and 84 on YouTube.com. I'd highly recommend it to any Husker fan to look up the games from that era. They're a heck of a lot of fun to watch. It was a much different style of football than it is today. Most teams in the Big 8 ran an offense very similar to Nebraska's.
Right.
Like watching Missouri, it was like watching Nebraska's offense, but with Nebraska had better coaching, better athletes than Missouri because they beat them every year. But nonetheless, it was mostly a running style of ball game. And in some of the interviews toward the end of the season, the Huskers in 83, Iowa State had a quarterback, David Archer, later played in the NFL.
Yes.
He threw for a lot of yards, but Nebraska won pretty decisively. And after the game, Coach McBride gave an interview and said, the game of college football is transitioning from a more run-oriented game to a more passing-oriented game. And so we saw that transition begin during the early 1980s.
Right.
And, of course, we saw that with Miami. And, they're tough to stop.
Yeah, well, the one thing I will say is we had a mindset that a lot of people probably take for granted today. But it was like, say, for example, if we had an away game, when we boarded the plane to go to whatever city we were going to, it was never said, but it was kind of like understood. We knew we were going to win. We just didn't know by how much. And then once we actually took the field during pregame warm-up, we knew we had most of our teams beat because they were too busy watching us warm up instead of warming up themselves. So we had this confidence. And then Coach Osborne would, he would like pour gas on the fire in a very subtle way, go out there, help knock them down, help them up, and just play the game like you know how to play. It was nothing rah-rah about it, but it was a quiet confidence, man, that we played with. And we just felt like we were going to win. But we prepared all week. It was a lot, it was real physical, especially Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And, I mean, by the time we got to the games were actually easy.
Yeah, I heard that from some of your teammates, that the practices are a lot tougher than the games.
Yeah. Oh, man. The guys I was going against in practice would be starting on some of the other teams in the country, and I know that. And they was not going easy on us because they was trying to show the coaching staff that they deserve to play too. So it was a real competition, especially those, like I say, those Tuesday and Wednesday practices, man, it was full pass and it was full contact. And there were like 4 stations and everybody is putting in work. So yeah, it was very physical, man. We had an excellent training staff. Rest in peace, George Sullivan and the rest of his crew, man. They kept us ready, man. I mean, they made sure we were ready come game time.
And about Coach Osborne and his quiet confidence, this is a story I heard from one of the players. It was the 83 Colorado game. Nebraska's up 14-12 at halftime over a very heavy underdog.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody goes in the locker room and everybody's kind of disappointed with how things are going. And Coach Osborne just said, just play like the way I know you can play. That's all you have to do. We'll be fine. And I guess the team got really fired up about it.
Oh, yeah.
And you went out and scored 48 points in the third quarter.
Absolutely. Hey, look, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back with Dennis. Don't y'all go anywhere. This is 93.7. The ticket is to get you happy on hour.
Hey volleybalfans, this is Laura Dijkema, national player of the Netherlands and now the setter on Omaha's newest professional team, Love Omaha Volleyball. League Volleyball is bringing the heat this year. Don't miss your chance to see Olympians, national players and national champions right here in Omaha from now through April. We can't wait to see you cheering for us in the stands. Visit lovboma.com to buy single match tickets to see me and Love Omaha Volleyball in action. Go Big Green!
At Lincoln Family Chiropractic, they believe everyone deserves to live a pain-free and active life. Whether it's neck pain, shoulder pain, or lower back pain, Lincoln Family Chiropractic specializes in customized care for every patient to promote faster healing, allowing you to get back to an optimal life. Lincoln Family Chiropractic's team specializes in treatments such as dry needling, cupping therapy, and traditional adjustments. Give Lincoln Family Chiropractic a call today, 402-484-5166. Visit them online at lincolnfamilychiro.com or in person, 1 block south of 70th and 8th Street in Lincoln.
Hey Husker Nation, this is Todd Euler, 2-time national champion, here to talk to you about Window World Lincoln. At Window World, we specialize in replacement windows, doors, siding, and roofing. Whether you're looking to enhance the beauty of your home or increase its energy efficiency, we've got you covered. And here's the best part. We offer the best for less. Our team is dedicated to providing top quality products and exceptional service at affordable prices. We want to earn your business and make your home improvement dreams a reality. So why wait? Contact Window World Lincoln today at 464-7313 or visit our website at windowworldlincoln.com. Window World Lincoln, where quality meets affordability.
Looking for a financial partner that truly makes a difference? Modern Woodman is a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. We can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement. We also offer member benefits, social activities, and volunteer opportunities to help your family and community.
I'm Sean Erickson, your Modern Woodman representative in Lincoln. Call me at 402-483-6515 to start the conversation.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
LES wants your feedback. Help shape your electric utilities direction and priorities by taking an anonymous online survey. Make your voice heard before the survey closes on April 30th at les.com/survey.
This is Bill Mitchner, Executive Director of Lincoln Lighthouse. Did you know Lighthouse provides multiple programs for students such as one-on-one tutoring and mentoring, as well as pro-social skill exercises, while providing them a nourishing meal and a safe space during all months of the year, even during school breaks? Learn more or contribute to Lighthouse at lincolnlighthouse.org today.
Outside is where winter adventure unfolds. On frozen lakes, icy landscapes, and snow-covered slopes, feeling the cold air rush by as you race downhill. The freedom of gliding with ease and the warmth of being together. From epic sled rides to the fun of ice fishing, it's all right here beneath Nebraska skies. Start your winter adventure at yournebraskaparks.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Associations and this station.
Imagine a healthier, more active, physically fit version of yourself. If you've been putting off getting into shape, now is the time with the Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping 10-Week Challenge. Our program combines kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching to help you achieve your fitness goals. And ticket listeners, you can get $150 off your enrollment. The next 10-week challenge begins on April 12th. You can get all the info at fxblincoln.com. Don't wait any longer. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill and 70th and Vine.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Back to the Get Your Happy On Hour, featuring former Husker receiver Ricky Simmons.
Hey, we back. Bach, man, we got anybody over there checking out the show?
Yeah, a couple comments off of YouTube. Brett Lane says, happy Sunday, big bruh. And off Facebook, Odious Lee says, great show, little bro.
Man, appreciate both of y'all, man. Y'all always showing love. Otis Lee is a former Husker too, man,
Right.
and he's my big brother. See, Otis was one of them guys I used to try to avoid. You know, them guys got bad intention. Them D linemen, them nose guards and stuff, they got bad intention when they show up. So I made a living avoiding them type people. Well, hey, look, I wanted to ask you, you know, you was talking about that Colorado game when we Coach Osborne. I remember that game in particular because you know, we were supposed to beat them pretty good, and we weren't playing well at first half. And boy, that halftime speech was a little different than the pregame speech. It was more like, hey, you know, that's Colorado. You know, you guys go out there and play like you know you can play, because you know we haven't lost to them. And we did go out there and take care of our business. But the thing is, man, we knew what was expected of us, and we, like I said earlier, we prepared for that. So you're right. You've done your research. I will give you that. Now tell us about some of the things you were saying during the break. You was talking about some of the teams that you felt was overlooked.
Well, I'll say this. The 1983 defense is better than people remembered. All people remember is the Miami game, but that's not the whole season. Mm-hmm. The book is about more than just one game and one play. It's about the entire season. The defense played very well in the equivalent of 10 out of 12 regular season games. I mean, they held Penn State, the defending national champions, to 6 points. And Penn State didn't score until 20 seconds were left on the reserves. They held UCLA to 10 points, a team that won the Rose Bowl. They basically won the Oklahoma and the Oklahoma State games by making last-second stands. The 83 defense was a good defense. They gave up a respectable 15 points a game. That's good. They give up 368 yards a game, but that number doesn't tell you the whole story. The guys I talked to from the 83 defense said that a lot of the times they didn't play much in the second half, so a lot of the yards were given up by the reserves. And they also said when they were when the first string defense was playing, like the offense would go like 80 yards in 3 plays, and the defense would go out there and they'd still be gassed from the previous series. So you guys are too successful. And the defense held Miami to 14 points in the last 3 quarters of that Orange Bowl game. So that was a pretty commendable effort. So it was a good defense. And to show how good they were, the 83 defense was a pretty young defense. They had 4 starters coming back. Well, 9 starters returned in 84 for the 84 defense, and that was one of the best defenses in school history. The only comparable defense statistically in school history was the fabulous 1971 defense that anchored a great national title team. The 84 and 71 defenses only gave up about 200 yards a game, and they only gave up 8 or 9 points a game.
Well, I got to ask you this. I mean, we know the success of the 90s. You know, it's well documented, and I'm very, very proud of those guys. But what made you choose to cover the 80s?
Because it's been overlooked. I mean, the World Herald has a good book on the 70 and 71 teams. Johnny Rodgers has a very good book on 70 and 71. The World Herald has a good book on the 90s, but there's absolutely nothing on the 80s. And I just feel like it was a great bunch of teams, a great bunch of guys, played excellent football, and they've just been overlooked because they didn't win a national title. And I just thought they deserve some attention.
So you decided so did you decide to write this book after you retired or before you?
Before I retired for years, I was thinking about writing a book on Robert F. Kennedy and the 1968 Nebraska primary and a book on some aspect of Nebraska football in the 80s. And probably 60% of the book is on the 83 team.
Mm-hmm.
I devote a lot of time to the 84 team because I talked to a lot of the guys that played in 84.
Gotcha.
And that's an underrated team. I mean, they had a couple chances to win the national title, and they were kind of unlucky. I think probably the unlucky break for the 84 team was I interviewed Craig Sundberg, not a household name, but a great guy. He lives here in Lincoln.
Yep, I know Craig.
And Craig was playing great ball, and he injured his right shoulder against UCLA. I think if Craig had stayed healthy the whole year, I think they would have won the national title. He ran the option very well. He was a good passer and a very smart guy.
Right. Well, you know, let me say this before I forget. I want to say thank you for acknowledging and for writing this book. Now, for you to write this book on the 80s, like I said, I can't thank you enough for that because, I mean, like I said, I think that it's important. But I guess my next question to you is, when do you anticipate this book being done?
I hope to have it finished by August. The writing is completed. It's been edited, and we've gotten permission to use pictures from a variety of sources, and we're waiting for those sources to provide us with high-resolution photographs so we can put them into the manuscript. So if anybody's listening from the University of Nebraska or the University of Nebraska Athletic Department, please email me the enhanced photographs I've requested sooner rather than later. You will really like this book. It'll be a real tribute to the 83 Huskers and the teams in the 80s in general. So if you're listening, please send them to me as soon as possible. Thank you.
And what's that email again?
DennisPCrawford@gmail.com.
Okay, y'all heard him. Get him those photos, man, because again, I just think it's really, really cool, man, that you chose our era to write about. I'm sure a lot of the guys that I'm still in contact with, you know, Odious Lee, Rodney Lewis. I mean, guys like that, we'd love to read about it. And I gotta be honest with you, it's nice to know that somebody do remember that we played in the 80s. You know, the 70s, I know they got their place in history, and the 90s got their place in history. It's kind of nice to know that we aren't totally forgotten. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It really has been a labor of love. I mean, I read the old newspaper articles from the Lincoln and Omaha papers from the early 80s. I read Sports Illustrated articles, and there's just a lot of stuff on the internet about Husker football in the 80s. A lot of the players have done other interviews in the past.
Right.
Some of the players have written books. Irving Fryer wrote a book. Brett Clark wrote a book. You wrote a book. So I read those. Coach Osborne wrote a book, More Than Winning, on that period. Was a very valuable tool for me. I interviewed Coach Osborne, and I want to thank him for the interview. I spent 80 minutes with Coach Osborne sitting across the desk from him in his office in the summer of 2023. He is a very, very impressive man. Just a great guy, a great man, extremely intelligent, just super impressive.
And he's got a real unique sense of humor too, because he can say some things with a straight face that'll make you laugh, you know. And I enjoy my meetings with Coach Osborne as well, because he's very serious but funny. And a lot of people don't know that about him.
He has an underrated sense of humor. In reading those old articles from 83, 84, I would plug into the book quotes that he would say in press conference after some of the games that were his unique, dry sense of humor.
Yeah, he's good with those one-liners, man. I mean, he got some good ones. I got one story about Coach Osborne I want to share right quick. Every day after practice, he'd make the whole team run 2 laps around the field before we go to the weight room. And Irvin, Fryer, and myself were considered like the 2 fastest guys on the team at the time. And we was running our laps, but we was just barely above a walk. And so Coach Osborne lapped us. And then Dave Remington lapped us. And then the second time when Coach Osborne came around, he never looked at us. He just pulled up beside us and slowed down. He goes, I just don't quite understand how 2 of the fastest guys on the team are getting lapped by Dave Remington. Then he just took back off running. So, in other words, he made his point, but it's the way he made his point. So we've had a lot of fun over the years just talking about stuff like that. And, and one thing I want to give him credit for, and a lot of people disagree with me on this, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. But that national championship game against Miami, I still stand by the 2 point, going for the 2 points. A lot of people say, man, you kicked the extra point, you tie the game, you get a national championship ring. Yeah, maybe so. But in the heat of the moment, we just didn't go to Miami to tie.
I asked Coach Osborne about that and the players about it. Every player that I interviewed from 83 to a man agrees with you that the attempted 2 point conversion was the correct decision.
Yeah.
And I asked Coach Osborne about it too, and he's been interviewed about it a lot, so I picked this up. But basically, Coach Osborne said, I would not vote for a coach for the national championship who played for a tie. You have to play to win. There was a game for the national title in 1966 between Notre Dame and Michigan State, and the 2 coaches played for a tie. And Coach Osborne was very critical of those coaches who played for a tie. And Coach Osborne said, let's say you had gone 12-0-1, kicked the extra point. Coach Osborne said there was no guarantees would have been ranked number 1 because Auburn had a very good team that year. They went 11-1. 8 of their 12 opponents finished in the top 20. They played the toughest schedule in the land. And after the bowl games, Auburn got a share of the national title. They were elected national champions by the New York Times computer poll. So Coach Osborne made a very valid point. There were no guarantees they'd win a national title with a tie.
Yeah, well, like I said, even though I know it's easier with hindsight to say, no, we could have. I stand by that. I mean, 2 point, going for 2, I stand by it. I mean, I have no regrets. I mean, we just didn't complete it. I mean, it's not something I'm ashamed of. I look back at the record, 12-0, number 1 team in the nation for 12 straight weeks. I think we probably outscored any school in the history of football at that time. So, I mean, we were putting in work. We just came up 1 point short.
Yeah, the name of the book is Almost Perfect.
Almost Perfect. Great title.
Thanks. The idea came from Robert Stuckey, a D lineman I interviewed. A very smart guy, very good guy. And Robert Stuckey said, we were the best imperfect team in the history of sports.
I like that.
He's a very smart guy. It was a very good interview. And it reflects a lot of the interviews I did. I interviewed, some of the stars, Mike Rozier, Dean Steinkuhler, Tom Rathen. But I interviewed guys that were not household names, but they're still really good players. But everybody I talked to from the team was really intelligent, really friendly, really thoughtful. They'd all been successful after football.
Right.
Most of the guys went into business. One guy talked to as a doctor, Scott Strasburger, great guy.
Yeah.
Tom Morrow's a lawyer. I've known Tom forever, great guy. But everybody I talked to has been successful after football. So the 83 team, they were winners on and off the field. And that's one of the points that I make in the book.
Well, a lot of us are still friends to this very day. I talk with Mike Rozier daily. I mean, at least once a day we visit. He's always on the golf course. I'm like, you stay on the golf course more than the holes do, but he's out there playing golf. And I really think that the fact that we spent so much time together when we were in college, I think that's what formed these friendships that we have to this day. Because I know today's game is a lot different. You have all the different transfer portals and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of staying together for 4 or 5 years.
That's unfortunate. I think the old system was better because you guys were together for 4 or 5 years and you formed lifelong friendships and relationships. Like one of the interviews I did was I had 3 guys in the room at one time, Dean Steinkuhler, Mark Trainowitz, and Harry Grimminger. And those guys are laughing, they're joking, they're just having a great time during the interview. You could tell they're really good friends to this day. And then when the interview is over, they're walking out the door. Trainowitz turns to me, he's smiling. It's a joke. He says, "Now, Dennis, we're going to tell the story what really happened in 1983 when we go to lunch."
But no, I agree, man. We formed a bond that, I think that still holds true to this day. We've lost some guys. God has came and got some guys, but the ones that are still here, we do a pretty good job of staying in touch. I reach out to people all the time. I call people from coast to coast, and I do that on purpose because, Father Time is undefeated, and we know that everybody has a date. So I try to make sure that I stay in contact with as many people as I can. And if it ain't no more than just a laugh and joke, Rozier is the best example. We talk about nothing. We just, hey man, just call see what you're doing. Like, I'm not doing nothing. Well, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to go to the golf course. It's just very simple things. It's not like we're doing these business deals all the time. We just talk about life and then we reminisce as well. So I'm glad that you, again, I just want to say thank you as much as I can, man. Say thank you for this book. I'm looking forward to it. And you say you're anticipating it coming out in
August, if all goes well, knock on wood. Like I said, University of Nebraska, UNL Athletic Department, email me those enhanced photographs. We'll get this, we'll light this candle. This will be a great book that you'll be very proud of.
Okay, well, we're going to take one more break. Then we're going to come back and wrap the show up. But don't y'all go anywhere. This is 93.7 The Ticket. Get your happy on out.
Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and on behalf of the entire Koppel team, we would like to say thank you to all of our loyal customers and employees that have allowed us to become one of the most successful GM dealerships in the country for the past 50 years. So we are celebrating that with some huge discounts. Right now, we have up to $13,500 off MSRP or 0% APR on select new models, and new Blazer EVs are leasing for $279 a month with 0 down. So check us out online at koppelcars.com. All deals with approved credit. See dealer for details.
This is Bill Mitchner, Executive Director of Lincoln Lighthouse. Did you know Lighthouse provides multiple programs for students such as one-on-one tutoring and mentoring, as well as pro-social skill exercises, while providing them a nourishing meal and a safe space during all months of the year, even during school breaks? Learn more or contribute to Lighthouse at lincolnlighthouse.org today.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Not many businesses can say they've made it 60 years, but Madsen's Bowling and Billiards can. With 12 bowling lanes and the biggest pool room in Nebraska, where else would you go to enjoy an afternoon or evening? There's great daily specials like $2 Tuesdays. Games of bowling, shoe rental, draft beers, and tacos, all just $2 each. Have a delicious burger at EJ's Lounge before or after your bowling or pool session, and you'll leave satisfied. Madsen's Bowling and Billiards at 47th and Dudley.
Attention all wing fans! Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays, enjoy 89-cent boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.29 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today at 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village.
I used to smoke. I thought of cigarettes as my best friend.
They were always there for me when I needed a break.
I also thought cigarettes were my best friend, and then they gave me peripheral artery disease.
I smoked and had a stroke. Actually, multiple strokes.
I smoked and have heart disease. Here's my tip. If cigarettes are your friend, you need a better friend.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to the Get Your Happy On Hour, featuring former Husker receiver Ricky Simmons.
Hey, and we're back. Well, man, listen, I'll be real honest with you. I think you had something else you wanted to share with us, Dennis. Am I right?
Well, hard to say. I just want to say I was really impressed with Coach Osborne and the players I met from '83, and I talked to a lot of guys from '84. And I mean, this book is meant to recognize their accomplishments, which have been overlooked and neglected. And I think, like I said, the 1983 defense has been overlooked, and I think they deserve some love too.
Yeah, well, I want to say this, man. I want to give a couple quick shout outs while I'm thinking about it. My big brother, Odious Lee, Paul Smith, Rodney Lewis, some guys that are not here, Russell Gary, rest in peace, Anthony Steele, rest in peace. I got to give a big shout out to Brent Williams, Jimmy Williams, Toby Williams, Jamie Williams. I mean, I can go on and on naming people, man. Mark Shaleen, as you were saying, Dean Steinkooler, Trainowich, and Harry Greminger, man. Those guys, I spent a lot of time with these people, man. And, and I like to show people respect and love, man, because we spent a lot of time together, and I know, after football, we all went our separate ways. I get that. But a big shout out to Irvin Fryer as well, Mike Rozier and Roger Craig. I mean, I just got a lot of people. I mean, Kevin Biggers. I think about Paul Parker. I think about a lot of these guys, man, that didn't get the recognition. And that's what you were speaking to about this book. They didn't get the recognition that they deserve. And just because you may not be a headliner, so to say, you still was a very, very important part of this process. And I call it the 80s, and just want everybody to know, man, that I'm thinking about you. I'm proud of you. And I got to be real honest with you, man. When I think about it, even though I don't participate as much as some people do, like with the current program stuff, I do support them. And I am a fan. I watch a lot of their games on TV, but that doesn't lessen the fact that I'm a fan. And, and what you're doing to me is very special. I just want you to know that, and I appreciate that. I mean, you've shared quite a bit of stuff with us, man, and I can't never thank you enough, but I definitely want you to keep us posted on that book.
I will, absolutely. I'll definitely shoot you a text or give you a call when it's ready.
Yeah.
I'll post about it on social media. I run a page called Nebraska Fans for Matt Rule along with 2 other guys. So
Okay.
I'll definitely post about it there. So I will let the world know. I want to present Coach Osborne with an autographed edition once it's ready, since he gave me an interview in the summer of 2023, and he helped me a lot. I mean, that interview with Coach Osborne opened a lot of doors. It was one of the first interviews I did. And I'd call a lot of the guys and they'd say, well, if Coach Osborne's on board, okay, I'll give you an interview.
Yeah. And that was a smart move, because, I mean, we don't want to do anything that's going to be disrespectful to him, because he doesn't deserve to be disrespected. I mean, the public has done a great job of that on their own. You know, I mean, they point out the 1 or 2 things that may not have went his way, and they want to focus on that. But instead of giving him credit for all the things that he has done, you know, our society is funny like that. And
yeah, he's a very good man. I mean, people remember the wins and the losses, but he's helped a lot of people. I mean, you look at all the players that have graduated. Almost all of his players graduated. Almost all of them went on to do good things in their community. He and his wife started the Teammates program. They've helped a lot of kids. I mean, he's a very good man. He's done a lot of good things, both on and off the field.
Well, you know, and those, like I said, I've said over and over and over, a lot of times when you're doing good things, they go unnoticed. And every chance I get, I try to give him credit. I give him credit for my personal success, which he will never take credit for, but I'm going to keep giving it to him anyway, because I think he deserves it. I got one last question that I want to ask you. And you've shared so much with us. I just want to know, when you get some free time, how does Dennis Crawford get his happy on?
I like to spend some time with my family. I spent the afternoon with my 2-year-old grandson. He's a sweet boy, and I'm so lucky and happy to be a grandfather, Ricky. It's just great.
Well, that's what it's all about. Hey, listen, I'm wrapping this show up the same way I do it every week. Every day you blessed the same. It's just another day in paradise. And no matter what, you got to get your happy on. Down! We'll see y'all next Sunday.